I believe that Vizsla is very truly a multi-bagger from here without any kind of support from the silver price. So it's going to be a really exciting end of the year for us. In 2025, it's going to be transformational.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from social medias. Today, I'm joined by Michael Konnert, founder, president, and chief executive officer for Vizsla Silver, exploration and development company focused on advancing its flagship project, Panuco Silver, in Mexico. Mike, it has been a while since our last interview. Great to have you back.
Lucian, it's great to see you again, and I'm very happy to be back on your channel here.
Thanks, Mike. I look forward for our chat. I want to start first with the current business environment that is always associated with the political and security. Of course, we had elections in Mexico, and the new president assumed office on October 1st, if I'm not mistaken. There were some security issues, cartel disruptions that happened in September. Now we are hearing about sky-high tariffs on the Mexican exports to the United States and some new winds blowing between those two states now. How is the situation for Vizsla? Are you affected in any way by those events, or is the business as usual? What would you say?
Well, it's certainly business as usual for us. We've been operating here in Mexico for 5 years now, and our team has a ton of experience in the country. Our core Mexican team are mostly locals to the area that we're operating in, so Durango and Sinaloa. So I think we have a very good understanding and handle of what it takes to run a business here in Sinaloa. I'm actually in Mexico right now, and last week I went to Mexico City. I met with the Undersecretary of Economy and his team, and the message from the new government, the new administration, was overwhelmingly positive. It was one of collaboration. It was a message of wanting to see progress and wanting to see new jobs being created. So I'm, I've always loved operating and being in Mexico with Vizsla, and I'm more and more encouraged than I have been before. Of course, there's no denying that there are issues like cartel violence and things like this, and it's thankfully a problem that our project itself doesn't need to worry about too much. It's we're within the Mazatlan tourist bubble, we call, and we're off of two highways, so we're in a very public area. We're not way back in the mountains of the Sierra Madres. So from time to time, the areas around Sinaloa can become a bit more dangerous. We take precautions there, but by and large, it's a very very safe and secure place to operate.
That's great to hear. I want to cover Panuco. In the latest round of infill drill results, we saw some great results. If I remember correctly, the best hole was returned some more than 5,000 grams per ton silver equivalent over 2.5 meters. That was designed to upgrade and expand mineral resources within areas designated for initial production at Copala. So, is this work sufficient, and what does this infill drill results telling you?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. It's telling us we have an extremely rich mine, and it's just been spectacular to see these results, and then play around with the block model, and what we're going to see here with the resource model coming into the updated resource statement towards the end of the year. What we're seeing is that core area Copala is exceptionally rich in values, in gold and silver. And the best part about it as well is it isn't just a narrow vein; it's a very thick, very mineable structure. So some of the intercepts that we saw were 10 meters at 2 kilos plus, that type of thing. But this infill drilling was really meant to produce a reserve statement for us for M&I as we go into basically detailed mine planning, feasibility study, all these de-risking efforts. What it actually did, it accomplished that. We will be able to put out an M&I resource, later this year. But what it also did was grow the resource outside of the historic area, outside of the historic model, closer to surface. And, it's very rare that you see an infill drill campaign potentially add ounces, through actually growing the resource shell, as well as, adding higher grade ounces in between two existing drill holes. So we're thrilled about that. It's all this is really going to be driving into further de-risking studies and announcements, towards the end of the year.
Okay, you stated that you plan to mobilize drill rigs on the other part of on the eastern portion of the district. Have you done that already, and what exploration activities can we expect there?
We have. We are currently drilling at several of our most interesting targets. Jesus Velador did an excellent exploration webinar. If your viewers haven't seen that, it's worth going back and watching his update on how we look at the district as a whole. But we're drilling two targets that are kind of closer to the center and the southeast portion of our district, and the goal here is to find multiple centers of mass. Our PEA project number one is a world-class mine in its own right. As we move it into production, it's going to be the fifth largest fifth largest silver primary producer, and certainly the largest held by a single asset company. But we suspect that we're going to find new centers of mass, new areas for us to develop new PEA areas. And so drilling on the Animus corridor like we are right now, drilling San Dimas, Camellia, this is a really important part of that exploration plan. So drilling is ongoing. We're certainly well funded. So I kind of, I do expect exploration funding and drilling to continue as well. So, hopefully this is just the start of a very long-term exploration program outside of that western portion of the project.
Okay, can you drill 24/7 with their planned amount of rigs? Is there any transport restrictions over there?
We typically do drill a day and night shift, and so that's the plan here, and I expect that'll be the way that we drill going forward.
Okay. In the terms of permits for the work going forward, you have all in hand. When specifically you expect the major permit application be submitted, and some timelines, if you can share?
Well, that people often ask, what is the biggest risk, or what is the thing that keeps me up at night? And of course, getting that mining permit is such an important hurdle for any company operating anywhere in the world, but certainly for us here. Now, the best part about our situation is that this has always been an underground mine. We've never changed our minds. We never thought, oh, this is an open pit, and then no, we're going to go underground. This is an underground mining district. It has been for 450 years, and the areas that we are looking to permit are all disturbed. So this is areas that have just been disturbed from mining, from agriculture, from other types of works. So to that end, we've actually been able to permit our test mine, which will start at the end of the year. We will start to go underground. We'll begun that by the end of the year. And again, that's been permitted. So what we need to do is apply for the MIA and a change of use permit. Both of those we expect to do towards the end of this year or into beginning of next year. And there are statutory timeframes for that. I wish I could tell you, in 6 months, we're going to get that, from the date of submission. Typically, it takes a little bit longer than that for companies in Mexico. But again, the part of this that's on our side is that this is a highly disturbed area. This is an area they've been mining for, for 450 years. Our mill site is directly below high tension power. So, this really isn't, if you were to picture it, and we love to bring people to site, this is an area that really looks like a mining district. So I suspect that it'll be relatively straightforward to get those permits. As far as the timeline, I wish I could tell you, but, we're hoping to get that done certainly within the next year.
Okay, understood. Are you still in line with the fast track to production feasibility study in Q2 25, followed by construction decision, with the first silver expected for 2027 Q2 or something, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, exactly. So I like to say, first silver in 2027. It really depends on a couple of factors. If it's, the beginning of 2027 or the end of 2027. But the things that we can control, like the feasibility study, the resource drilling, all of that has been on track in terms of timing. The feasibility study we've kicked off uh, would have been a few weeks ago, and we brought some really strong advisors and consultants, and Senko's working on that with Mining Plus. And so the team is working very, very well on the feasibility right now. I do definitely expect that we'll hit our timeline in terms of mid next year for the feasibility, or second half, let's say, of next year. And then that feeds into the debt financing. It feeds into some of the early works that we can do. So I would say we're certainly on track. The idea of fast track to mining, I believe, is still very much intact. And I'm thrilled about it. This is kind of where the rubber hits the road. We have a very, very strong COO in Simon Smirlik. He built 42 mines during his career at Ausenco, and prior to that, he was involved. His early career was Olympic Dam. Then he built Goro, which was probably one of the hardest mine builds, in the world. It's kind of clay mud in Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia. So he's had his experience. He's cut his teeth. This is probably one of the easier things he'll have to do. Building a mine underneath the power line off the side of a highway. So, you know, we're on track. This is getting really exciting for the company, and I can't wait to see what happens in 2025.
Did you say 42 mines?
That's right. Yeah, I was
Impressive.
involved in 42 mine projects like that. Yeah, exactly.
That's very impressive. You recently acquired, I forgot the name, Lagara district, something like that. You
Yeah,
did,
exactly.
yeah, you did some sampling last year there. I presume that the geological setting is same or similar to Panuco. How do you plan to develop and explore this area?
Well, I have to be a bit careful how I talk about this because we don't want competitors in our
Okay.
backyard. A bit tongue in cheek, of course, but we when we bought Panuco, it was literally off the side of the road that the road connected Mazatlan to Durango, and there would have been probably 1,000 Canadian geologists that have driven up and down that road over the years, and still it remained in private hands there. And if you zoom out and look at Sinaloa as a whole, it's very underexplored. You've seen companies like Prime, Scott Hicks and Dan Coons and the people over at Prime, have done an incredible job of exploring the Los Reyes project. And that's an example of a project that's really only been uncovered recently. You look at La Garra and it sits 32 kilometers away from San Dimas. San Dimas is one of the top 10 silver producers globally. It's produced 11 million ounces, 6 ounces of silver. Panuco could be a billion ounce district at some point as well. And we were able to acquire the Lagara project that has had historic mining, never had a drill rig on it, never been systematically explored. It's almost identical to the story at Panuco, but just a little bit harder to get to. It's a 4-hour drive from Mazatlan versus right off the highway. So our plan there is to look at this region of Sinaloa as a multi-generational mining concept, where the first project is going to be Panuco. The cash flows out of Panuco are going to be astounding. We're going to need to find ways to reinvest that money, and Lagara will be a perfect candidate for that, as is San Enrique and our other our projects there to the south. So we envision us Vizsla being a major part of the Sinaloa mining industry and that region's development going forward. Lagara has two parallel veins running north south, very similar to Napoleon. And we did some sampling on it. I don't know that we're going to send a crew to the field in 2024. We may in 2025, to start developing some of these projects and targets there. But it all fits into our plan is building a multi-generational silver producer here at the Panuco project and within the vicinity.
Do you plan maybe to expand a bit more the surrounding areas, the land, or you don't need to do it anymore?
We probably don't need to. I would say, it's we've certainly got, if we wanted to just sell the company, I think you'd just be happy with the land package that we have. We see an opportunity to build something much bigger than just a one-time transaction here. So, we are doing very disciplined, very cost-effective acquisitions. We've already, over the last 5 years, we've added probably 3,000 or 4,000 hectares in the region, adjacent to our original project, and we'll always continue to do that. We'll always continue to grow within that original property map area. It is possible that we may see, other projects added in the future as well.
Okay, fair enough. I saw a press release that you received national recognition for health, safety, and sustainability efforts for third year in a row. Congrats on that, by the way. What is necessary to get this kind of recognition?
Well, from our perspective, it's having a really good team in Mexico, and that we do. Our team led by Director of Mexico, Hernando Riuda, and his direct team, certainly deserve a huge amount of the credit for this award. It's the ESR distinction. It's it's an exclusive award that kind of combines health and safety and ESG, and recognizes a handful of mining companies every year. And for us, it has a lot to do with the health fairs that we conduct. We actually partner with the local baseball team, so we've been able to get onto their platform in terms of health fairs and community outreach. So Vizsla is kind of batting above our weight in terms of the impact that we have in this region here. And it comes down to our core value. One of our top three core values is the golden rule. Despite us being a silver company, we like the golden rule, which is to treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. And it really kind of is that simple in our community relations. So, we started that when we first arrived, and it's great to see that Hernando and his team in Mexico and our team in Mexico have been appropriately awarded that distinction.
You started trading on TSX last week. Do you believe that you will attract even more institutional money with that uplist?
Well, it's unfortunately the evidence so far, I guess the week has been pretty poor in terms of share performance. It's and it kind of coincides with the TSX listing, but I know just because it's coincident doesn't mean that it's correlated, which is good. But I do think that with the NYSE listing that we have and the TSX listing, we now can attract really any amount of capital from anywhere in the world that can play in the stock market. We want to remove all hurdles in doing that. That was our reasoning behind doing the NYSE listing 2 or 3 years ago as well. And we want to be that go-to name for silver production, silver development, but silver production in time. And the TSX listing is an important step towards, basically removing all of the hurdles for any potential shareholder. So I do think that we're going to see different levels of institutional investment, certainly as we've published our PEA, but as we go forward and publish the feasibility as well and move into production.
Mike, how is your share structure looking today, especially after the close of financing in September? Did you manage to bring when you did the financing, more institutions or funds to your share registry?
We did. It was really an interesting offer, and we had our core institutional shareholders that have supported us for many years, participate, and it was excellent to have them as part of that financing. But we also had, I would say, probably about 20 new institutions come in varying size, and $4 or $5 million orders and down to
offices.
Yeah, exactly, down to $250,000, that type of order size. So when we saw that was in September. It was in between the Beaver Creek and Denver conferences, and I thought that was a great indication that there is more capital coming into the space. And we were able to actually bring in another large shareholder after that, actually a major Canadian life insurance company, was became a shareholder following the bought deal. So what we're starting to see is, and this is very typical. It's something you saw with Silvercrest, with Mag Silver, with any of these companies that move from the junior side through exploration development into production. You see a changing and a mixing of the shareholder base from retail. We still have a lot of retail in Vizsla Silver, and I think it's great. We love our retail shareholders, but we're also starting to see these different institutions. We've even started to kind of run the gamut of different institutions, and now more and more senior groups buying Vizsla shares. And again, it all kind of works together: the TSX listing, the New York listing, the development of the stage of the company, and then attracting new institutional shareholders.
Yeah, one important metric for me personally as a shareholder of some exploration and development company is access to capital. So far, you didn't have any difficulties of raising money, and do you believe that will continue to be in the future?
Well, it's something that we've really focused on. I was the first shareholder of the company, so it's unfortunate you do have to take dilution over time, to progress projects, but more or less we hate dilution, so we try to maximize the attractiveness of our shares for investors, and then that translates into the ability to raise capital. But it also means that we work really hard on behalf of our shareholders. As we speak, Mike Pettengell, our Senior Vice President of Business Development, and our IR team are in Europe, and they're working, basically doing road shows and going to conferences, and that never stops. So Mike's always on the road and doing great work. We work really hard to keep our analysts informed and have that analyst coverage. We find that's very helpful as well. And similarly, as the need has arisen, Simon's joined the team. We've built out the team. We have best-in-class debt advisors. We've been involved in working towards securing debt financing for the project. And I expect and I believe, and we're doing everything within our power to make sure that we have ample access to capital. But I think the best thing is to have a project that can attract it. So, even at today's metal prices, I believe we're still a triple-digit IRR, a very substantial NPV, and payback that's measured in months and not years. So it's very attractive to project finance as well.
Yeah. Mike, final question, news flow from the company, what to expect and when to expect?
Well, this is really going to be an exciting period as we move, from November into the end of the year. We're expecting the resource update. We're expecting, this is the thing that really gets me the most excited, the beginning of the test mine and beginning of, going underground at the project. We may have some news out from exploration. That's, always the big question mark, and always something that could be very well received if, continues to be high grade across the district. So we're really excited about that. And then as we go into next year, it's the feasibility study, it's permitting, and then news about project finance. So right now we trade at a PNAV that's probably closer to half of our NAV. As we go and go through the feasibility study, get closer to finance, typically companies like ours would trade much closer to full NAV. And then when you're in production, you trade about 1.5 to 1.6 times NAV. So we're really in this sweet spot here where, forget us finding anything else. I'm sure we will. But even if we just add the resource that we have right now, not the one that's coming, that's going to be updated, there's still a very natural progression in our net asset value and the metric that we get valued against. So I believe that Vizsla is very truly a multi-bagger from here without any kind of support from the silver price. So it's going to be a really exciting end of the year for us, and 2025 is going to be transformational.